Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Where are you calling from?
Rochester, New York.
Okay. Are you just staying up there, or are you from there originally?
I'm from here, so I'm with my parents.
Okay. Great.
And you're in St. Louis, right?
Correct. Yep. I'm sitting out in my company car right now. I got an assignment at like 12:45, so I'll go after that But we've not been going in the office a lot and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So in fact, I just went in the office to grab a long lens because we're going to be doing a testing center, and I just wanted the longest lens we had to cover it. So it was the first time I've been in the office in 12 days. So,
Wow. How's the coronavirus situation down there?
well, we're not New York City. I think the state, I think the state has 5,000 something cases or so like that. So it's not, it's a big state. So it's not horrible, but there are significant impacts out here. They don't think demand for hospital beds or ventilators are going to outstrip um, the numbers that they have. So they've got enough. They think they have enough hospital beds and ventilators to meet the demand at peak, but um, we're also getting some of the protests. We had some protests yesterday in the state capitol and out in the county capital where people are demanding that the government reopen the economy and stuff. And so I think you're seeing that all across the country as well. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's, you know, the other thing that's happening here in St. Louis is that we tend to be several days to a week or two behind what some of the other places are. So, like, when New York and Washington and California started to have these lockdowns, we then had like a lockdown a week earlier. So we were able to like kind of watch to see what the newspapers were doing out in other areas and kind of follow their lead a little bit. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
um, so it's one of the good things about being in the middle of nowhere.
Is You guys are still shooting, right? What's your process to like keep yourself safe and others safe when you're out shooting?
So, we got some company finally provided some masks last week. Before that, we had masks that coworkers had made for us, and some individuals had masks that we had individually sourced and stuff. We've been wiping stuff down. You know, we're not um, we're not going in some places. Like we're just uh, we're like, okay, we're not going to go in there because that's an infection risk for the people we're covering, and it's an infection risk for us. So, there's some things we're not going in covering. I probably went. I think I was on furlough last week. So I was on this unpaid furlough last week and stuff. And I think the week before that, I'd been on like 4 or 5, I think it was like 4 or 5 days where like I just didn't go inside any place. I made all my pictures from outside on a sidewalk and stuff. Now this last Saturday, I ended up going in the lobby of a hospital and stuff. But they're like, we had a conversation about it before I went in. They're like, this lobby's clean. No one's actually been in this lobby for like a month. So, so we're in the lobby, but you're aware not to put your cameras down on stuff. And I'm wearing an N95 mask and, and keeping your social distance and stuff. So, I mean, it's an adjustment. Um, you know, but it's this is what you got to do. I'm also in a situation where I've got a wife and daughter at home, and my wife is also a journalist, and she reports on a lot of healthcare, and so she's pretty knowledgeable about this stuff, and she's not really happy that I'm going out that I'm going out every day and covering this stuff. So like when I get home, when I got home from going in the lobby of the hospital the other day, I like went immediately downstairs to the kit to where our laundry is. And I took off my clothes and I I washed them out there. I took off my shoes outside the house and stuff. And so, I mean, you do your best to minimize the risks that you're bringing home. But, I don't know. I mean, you never really know. I mean, none of us have done this before, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
we try our best and try not to take any stupid risks and, go from there.
Right, right. Has this like completely changed the way that you shoot? Because you have to use long glass and you're shooting from outside and you have to keep that social distance.
Yeah, I mean, so, somewhat. I mean, I I don't know if it totally changed it. I mean, it definitely impacts the way you shoot. I don't know if it totally changes the way you shoot because you're still looking for the same thing. You're still looking for moments. You're looking for storytelling pictures. So, for it to totally change the way I would shoot, I'd have to be like, screw it. Just anything will do, and
Mm-hmm.
you're still looking for moments that tell pictures of what, or tell stories of what's going on there and stuff. So I wouldn't say it's totally changed it, but you know, yeah, it's had an impact on the way you're telling, on the pictures you're producing and stuff. There are more long lens pictures there. The wider pictures, you shoot with a wider lens tend to be from a greater distance, and so they're more like overall scene setters. But yeah, it's and the other thing is too is like I was at a fire scene earlier this morning, and um, these people are coming up and they're standing really close to me. I'm like, get away from me.
Yeah.
So, um,
Keep your distance.
right, yeah, stay away.
Yeah.
So I mean, one of the other things I found really weird has been, and I realized this, within the first week or so like that of wearing a mask, was that there's this non-visual thing you do as a photographer, where you have, implied, you don't go up and ask them if you can photograph them, but you have, there's like this implied consent because you smile at them and they sort of acknowledge you and they kind of, they know what's going on. So people can't see you smiling at them and they just see you sitting there looking at them with a face mask and a camera. And that's a little bit more creepy and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I found that, that's been one of the things that's been different is that, the nonverbal communication that happens between people you're photographing and yourself is different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you think that has because we have to wear masks when we're out shooting, do you think that has hindered some of the assignments that you're working on or some of the relationships that you have with people in the community?
like we were talking about this, and the thing is, I heard someone say this, that, people, this other photographer was like, well, I think people are more relaxed if I'm wearing a mask because they think I'm taking it seriously and stuff. So, I mean, so, whether you're wearing a mask, whether it helps or hurts probably depends on the person you're photographing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, it's weird. I drive around and have a bottle of Lysol in my car now and stuff with paper towels to like wipe stuff down. I keep,
Mm-hmm.
masks in my bag, with alcohol wipes and Purell wipes and stuff. I mean, that's all stuff I didn't used to carry around and everything like that. But now it's sort of just, part of your the regular stuff you have with you at any time, like a pen and a notebook, right?
Right.
So,
Is the risk that you take to like go out and shoot and make these photographs worth it, do you think?
well, this is a historic time and stuff, and it would be, I think as photojournalists, I think we're driven to go out and document our communities and the history that's going on around us. And so I think that, I'm someone who went to both Iraq and Afghanistan and covered, the wars over there. There's distinct risks in going over there and covering that stuff, just like there's distinct risks when you're covering this. But, just like Iraq and Afghanistan, if you feel uncomfortable with doing something, you don't do it. Nothing's worth risking your life for there. I've seen some photographers like going into ERs and or into emergency rooms. I think Philip Montgomery did that, and I don't think that I don't think that's something I would want to do, and I don't think that's something my wife would be very happy if I did. If I did that, my wife wouldn't let me back in the house for like 2 weeks. So, but each photographer is going to have to evaluate those risks, because there's photographers who did stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan who I thought was sort of risky and I wouldn't have done, and they made some great pictures out of it. So, there's risks that come with covering anything, and you just have to be smart about it and make smart decisions, and realize that no picture is worth dying for. So
Right.
I mean that's the way at least I approach it. So um
There, I'm
what's
sorry.
up? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you if there was a project that you've done over the last few weeks that you're most proud of, or a
Oh, but,
story.
you know I don't know if there's really a project as much as I like some of the pictures I made in the last few weeks. I think if you go back through Twitter, you can see it. I think that the coronavirus is causing pictures to happen. And like on Sunday when I was working, pictures were just like, it felt to me like they were just falling out of the sky at me. It was just like, oh, there's pictures all over the place. And I was just every place I was like making a decent picture. And maybe that's because people are taking these things that are like, they seem unusual to us now, but we'll see how these pictures age. Like in a year, is it going to seem unusual, or is it just going to be totally like, well, that's just boring? It seems unusual to us now that people are like, hoarding toilet paper and stuff, but maybe that's the new normal. Maybe now we just hoard toilet paper for the rest of our lives. And like the masks kind of are visually sort of different now, right? But how's that going to look in a year? Is that we're at this, I think throughout history there's like pivot points, right? Where things change from that date forward. Things are different, and 9/11 is one of those dates. Pearl Harbor is one of those dates. Psychologists talk about these mental pivot points for people in South Florida. They talk about Hurricane Andrew being a pivot point, when it changes the way they think about stuff. And this will be a pivot point for us. So when you are 20 years from now, when we're looking back at this, there will be pre-coronavirus life and post-coronavirus life, and those things are going to be different. So but it's also why I think it's important to document how we're changing and stuff, right? So yeah, I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. Are you able to do like any work from home, or are you doing everything from home?
Yeah, so like I'll go home at the end of my shift. I'll go back there sometimes. Whereas I might have gone back to the office and sent photos in the past and had someone edit. Now I might just go home to my high-speed internet connection at home and just sit down at the dining room table and just send photos from there. I might send it from my car. It's I just do. I just try to avoid going in the office where general things is. And the reason why we avoid going in the office is that, if one person gets sick and then potentially makes everyone else in there sick, then we're wiping out, all these members of the photo staff and stuff. So it's important to, maintain your distance so you're still able to go out and work, because there is a lot of work that has to be done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. People are trying to do what they think is best, and that what that is different from everybody.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me. I know you have some assignments to go get to, so.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.